The systems designed to support us should do just that: support. Yet for many disabled individuals, home care and adult protective services, intended as lifelines, become sources of harm. Instead of promoting independence and well-being, these systems often trap individuals in cycles of control, neglect, and abuse. This dissonance between the promise of help and the reality of suffering underscores a critical need for reform.
Imagine needing help with daily tasks: dressing, bathing, eating. Now, imagine that help coming with strings attached, dictating your schedule, your choices, your freedom. This is the reality for many disabled individuals receiving home care. Well-intentioned efforts to provide assistance often morph into controlling behaviors, stripping individuals of their autonomy and dignity. Decisions about their own lives, when to eat, what to wear, who to see, are often made by others, leaving them feeling powerless and devalued. The erosion of autonomy can have devastating consequences for mental and emotional well-being. When individuals are constantly second-guessed, controlled, and denied the right to make their own choices, they can experience a sense of learned helplessness. The line between protection and control can be thin, and it is crucial that we remain vigilant in ensuring that systems intended to safeguard vulnerable adults do not inadvertently contribute to their disempowerment.
The consequences of inadequate or inappropriate care extend far beyond the emotional and psychological. Physical harm, often a result of neglect, improper care, or even outright abuse, is a stark reality for many disabled individuals relying on home care services. Bed sores from prolonged immobility, malnutrition due to inadequate feeding assistance, and injuries from falls are just a few examples of the physical toll exacted by a broken system. These injuries are not merely physical, they represent a system that has failed to protect its most vulnerable members. The stories are heartbreaking. Take the case of Sarah, a young woman with cerebral palsy, who developed severe bed sores after being left in her wheelchair for hours on end by an untrained caregiver. Or consider John, a man with a cognitive impairment who suffered a broken hip after a fall while being transferred by an aide who lacked proper lifting techniques. These are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a systemic failure to adequately train and supervise home care workers, leaving vulnerable individuals at risk.
While the physical impacts of inadequate care are undeniable, the psychological and emotional toll often remains hidden from view. Imagine the constant fear of being neglected, abused, or misunderstood by the very people entrusted with your care. This fear can be paralyzing, leading to anxiety, depression, and a profound sense of isolation. The trauma of such experiences can have long-lasting effects, impacting an individual's self-worth, their ability to trust, and their overall quality of life. The power imbalance inherent in the caregiver-receiver relationship can make it difficult for individuals to speak up about abuse or neglect. Fear of retaliation, of losing their caregiver, or of not being believed can silence their voices. This silence only perpetuates the cycle of abuse and allows perpetrators to continue their harmful behavior without consequence. It is crucial that we create safe and accessible channels for reporting abuse and neglect, ensuring that individuals feel empowered to speak out without fear of retribution.
For many disabled individuals, the struggle extends beyond physical care and encompasses the fundamental need for understanding and communication. Imagine being unable to clearly articulate your needs, your discomfort, or even your basic desires. This communication barrier can lead to frustration, misunderstandings, and a profound sense of isolation. Caregivers who lack adequate training in communicating with individuals with disabilities may misinterpret behaviors, leading to inappropriate responses and further exacerbating the individual's distress. For example, a nonverbal individual might use specific behaviors to communicate pain or discomfort. Without proper training, a caregiver might misinterpret these behaviors as agitation or non-compliance, responding with restraints or sedatives instead of addressing the underlying need. This lack of understanding can have devastating consequences, leading to unnecessary medical interventions, increased behavioral challenges, and a further erosion of trust between the caregiver and the individual receiving care. The inability to effectively communicate one's needs can be incredibly isolating.
Pause 3S. Another critical issue that underscores the urgency for systemic change is the practice of placing teens and young adults in nursing homes through coordinated efforts between adult protective services and home healthcare services. This often happens despite the fact that these young individuals haven't committed any wrongdoing. Instead, they are funneled into nursing homes due to a lack of appropriate resources and a failure to listen to their specific needs and desires. Imagine being a teenager, full of potential and dreams, but being placed in a setting designed for the elderly simply because the system doesn't have a better solution. This not only strips them of their youth, but also isolates them from their peers and community. The psychological impact of such placements can be devastating, leading to feelings of abandonment and hopelessness. Furthermore, caregivers often request hours that do not align with the teen's preferences or needs, exacerbating the sense of disempowerment. These young individuals find themselves in environments where their voices are not heard, their preferences are ignored, and their potential is stifled. This lack of agency and autonomy can lead to a deterioration of mental health and overall well-being. Pause 2S. The system's failure to provide adequate age-appropriate care options reflects a broader issue of neglect and misunderstanding. By not listening to the lived experiences and needs of these young individuals, the system perpetuates a cycle of harm and disempowerment. To truly address these issues, we must place a greater emphasis on understanding and respecting the unique needs of all individuals, regardless of age or disability. Pause 2S. The long-lasting effects of being in a situation where people don't care if they harm you or not can be profound and enduring. When care becomes neglect and assistance turns into indifference, the emotional and psychological scars can persist for years, if not a lifetime. Pause 1S. Imagine growing up or living in an environment where your needs and desires are constantly overlooked, where your voice is not heard, and where your autonomy is stripped away. This can lead to a deep-seated sense of worthlessness and hopelessness. The constant feeling of being a burden, of not being valued, can erode self-esteem and self-worth. Pause 2S. The emotional toll of such neglect can manifest in numerous ways: chronic anxiety, depression, and a pervasive sense of isolation. The psychological impact of being treated as less than, of being seen as an inconvenience, can lead to a loss of identity and purpose. These scars are often invisible, making them even more insidious. They linger in the background, affecting every aspect of a person's life, from their relationships to their ability to pursue their dreams and aspirations. Pause 1S. But amidst this darkness, there is a glimmer of hope. The human spirit is remarkably resilient. Many who have endured such neglect and harm find ways to reclaim their sense of self and rebuild their lives. They draw strength from within and from the support of those who truly care and understand. Pause 2S. It is crucial for us, as a society, to recognize these invisible wounds and to create environments where every individual feels valued and heard. By fostering empathy, understanding, and genuine care, we can help heal these scars and support the resilience of those who have been harmed. Pause 1S. Let's commit to being the change that is so desperately needed. Let's ensure that no one ever feels that their well-being is secondary, that their voice doesn't matter. Together we can create a world where every individual is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. Nice work! This is a very nice video.
The issues plaguing home care and adult protective services are not merely anecdotal. They are systemic. They are rooted in a long history of undervaluing disabled lives, of viewing disability as a deficit rather than a difference. This societal bias is reflected in the chronic underfunding of these essential services, the inadequate training provided to caregivers, and the lack of oversight and accountability within the system. As a society, we must acknowledge our collective responsibility for the harm inflicted upon disabled individuals and commit to creating a more just and equitable system of care. The time for incremental change has long passed. We need a fundamental shift in our perspective on disability and our approach to care. We must move away from a medical model that focuses on fixing or curing disability and embrace a social model that recognizes the societal barriers that create disability. This means dismantling attitudinal barriers, promoting inclusivity, and ensuring that disabled individuals have equal access to education, employment, and community participation. Only by addressing these systemic issues can we create a society where disabled individuals are valued, respected, and fully integrated members.
At the heart of reforming home care and adult protective services lies the need to shift the power dynamic from a paternalistic model to one that prioritizes self-determination and empowers choice. Disabled individuals are not passive recipients of care. They are active agents in their own lives, capable of making decisions and directing their own support. We must move away from a system that imposes care plans and instead embrace a person-centered approach that places the individual's goals, preferences, and values at the forefront. This shift requires a fundamental change in how we perceive and value the expertise of disabled individuals. Their lived experiences offer invaluable insights into the barriers they face and the solutions that will best support their well-being. We must create mechanisms for meaningful participation in the design, implementation, and evaluation of care services. This includes providing accessible formats for communication, ensuring that decision-making bodies are inclusive and representative, and valuing the contributions of self-advocacy groups and organizations led by disabled individuals. Empowering choice also means providing a range of support options that cater to the diverse needs and preferences of disabled individuals.
The stories shared throughout this essay highlight the urgent need for systemic change within home care and adult protective services. These stories, however, represent only a fraction of the experiences of disabled individuals navigating these systems. To truly understand the complexities of these issues and develop effective solutions, we must commit to listening to and learning from the lived experiences of those most affected. The voices of disabled individuals must be at the forefront of policy discussions, program development, and the allocation of resources. Creating spaces for authentic dialogue requires more than just inviting disabled individuals to the table. It demands a genuine commitment to listening with empathy, humility, and a willingness to challenge our own assumptions. We must be prepared to hear uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge the ways in which our systems have failed, and to work collaboratively to create meaningful change. The expertise of disabled individuals is invaluable in identifying both the problems and the solutions that will lead to a more just and equitable system of care. This process of listening and learning must be ongoing and integrated into all aspects of system reform.
Pause 3S. Statistics show that a significant number of disabled individuals face harm due to misplaced assistance. These numbers are more than just figures. They represent real people, each with their own story of struggle and resilience. It's crucial to understand their needs and provide appropriate support. Pause 2S. Misplaced assistance can manifest in various ways, from physical harm caused by untrained caregivers to emotional distress from invasive and unnecessary interventions. These statistics highlight a systemic issue that demands our immediate attention and action. Pause 2S. By examining these numbers and listening to the lived experiences behind them, we can begin to develop more effective support systems. We must prioritize person-centered care, where the unique needs and preferences of each individual are respected and met. Pause 2S. Understanding the weight of these statistics is the first step toward creating a world where disabled individuals are truly supported, not just managed. It's a call to reevaluate our approach to care and to commit to meaningful systemic change.
The stories shared in this essay are not meant to evoke pity, but rather to inspire empathy, understanding, and a call to action. The struggles faced by disabled individuals navigating home care and adult protective services are not isolated incidents. They are indicative of a systemic failure to value and protect the rights of all members of our society. We must move beyond awareness and embrace our shared responsibility to create a more just and equitable world for all. This requires a multi-pronged approach that addresses both the individual and systemic factors that perpetuate harm. We must invest in comprehensive training and support for caregivers, ensuring they have the skills and resources necessary to provide high-quality, person-centered care. We must strengthen oversight and accountability mechanisms within home care agencies and adult protective services, creating safe and accessible channels for reporting abuse and neglect. Furthermore, we must address the underlying societal biases that devalue disabled lives. This includes promoting inclusive education, increasing employment opportunities for disabled individuals, and celebrating the contributions of disabled people in all aspects of society.
The disability rights movement has long championed the slogan, "Nothing about us without us." This powerful statement encapsulates the core principle that guides our efforts to reform home care and adult protective services. Disabled individuals must be active participants in shaping the policies and practices that directly impact their lives. Their voices, their experiences, and their expertise are essential to creating systems that are truly responsive to their needs and aspirations. By embracing the principles of inclusion, collaboration, and self-determination, we can create a future where disabled individuals are not just cared for, but empowered to thrive. The journey towards a more just and equitable society is ongoing, and it requires a sustained commitment from individuals, communities, and policymakers alike. By working together, by listening to and learning from the lived experiences of disabled individuals, and by embracing the call to action embedded in the phrase, "Nothing about us without us," we can create a world where all individuals are valued, respected, and empowered to live with dignity, autonomy, and full participation in society. Thank you for watching. For resources and support, please visit our website or call our helpline. Remember, this could be you one day. A nursing home is not a good solution. Please think before you act. Disabled individuals need to be heard and taken to heart. This has to change because people often forget or don't realize that this could be them in their older years. Stop playing God.